Hello, my name is Roxanne Milan, and this is my week one vlog for our course in producing the high school play. I am a high school English and theater teacher in York, Pennsylvania, and I am also the technical director for our school's performing arts program, which we rebooted about 6 years ago. This week's course readings included the first 4 chapters of Catron and Shattuck's book, The Director's Vision, Play Direction from Analysis to Production, and the first 2 chapters of Andrew Baughman's 2017 guide titled, Hey Kids, Let's Put on a Show, a guide to producing a high school play. The first chapter of The Director's Vision was an introduction to developing a directorial vision. The chapter emphasized a director's need to manage many aspects of a production, including working with colleagues to present a unified vision and remaining flexible. The director is responsible for ensuring they have a firm understanding of the production's conflict, emotion, and entertainment qualities. Directors must help identify characters' objectives, intentions, and obstacles in order to drive action, help actors, and fully realize their directorial vision. Chapter 2 outlined the roles of a director and began with a really nice history lesson, which I did find to be interesting. I was surprised to learn that the position of director, as we understand it in the modern context, is only about a century old. The chapter outlines the functions and the responsibilities of the modern director. I enjoyed the analogy used in this chapter that the director is like a ship's captain in charge of an important voyage, responsible for the safety of the ship, its crew, and its passengers. The text identifies artistic unification, representing the playwright, representing the audience, organizing a working process, and working with performers as the 5 main functions of a director, and they do state that those are in order of importance. I do appreciate that the authors justify their ranking and why they did put these things in order. And as they elaborated on each point, it did make perfect sense why they put those in that order. The chapter also outlines the ethical responsibilities of a director and outlines those responsibilities to theater as an institution, the producing company, the playwright, the performers, production team, audience, and the director. It is important that the director not forget that they themselves are an artist. In the end, the goal is to create a meaningful work of art. In the 3rd chapter of the book, Catron and Shattuck identify play analysis as the director's greatest responsibility. It is true that the director's interpretation of the play matters. The authors offer the example of potentially having 30 different interpretations of a show, where 25 of those interpretations would be inappropriate and 5 of them being presentable pieces of art for your audience, and one of those 5 being the perfect production. In my practice, that has played out where I have been a part of I've been a part of that one of those 25 that did not work. I have worked on shows where, people have gotten up and walked out of the theater. It just happens sometimes. But I've also had the privilege of putting on productions where we have hit that one of the 5, and there is just magic that is happening on stage. Each of these productions had a different feeling, and the authors of the book are correct about that special feeling that happens when you do hit that perfect interpretation. The chapter ends by outlining Aristotle's 6 elements of drama. Those are plot, character, thought, diction, music, and spectacle. We will focus on each later in the book, and again, as a technical director, I do highly analyze the plays that I work on, but from a technical perspective. So I would say that spectacle is my primary focus, but I do look forward to delving into the other aspects as we work through this course. The 4th chapter did examine the first of the 6 elements of plot. I do think that the authors here were a little bit redundant. As an English teacher, I understand the concept of plot, but I did appreciate their theatrical framing of it. My favorite part of this chapter was the Q&A style, so that helped to frame it in a directorial way, and it did answer a lot of my wanderings. The 2 chapters from Baughman's Guide to Producing a School Play really had me reminiscing about my own personal experiences. The first chapter was all about hiring a director, which our program did about 6 years ago. In my discussion post, I discussed how one of the English teachers in my building has a background in theater and he wanted to restart the program. So he sort of hired himself. He got everything started, talked to the old assistant director and to see if she wanted to come back on board, and found that I had a background in tech and running soundboards, so asked me to be the technical director. We've had about 9 productions since, and we have done a lot of the things that are talked about in the book. So I talk about balancing egos, schedules, parents, and even a couple showmances. Luckily for us, our director does a great job with handling students. He's a great business manager, and he also has that football coach ability that is discussed in the book. Chapter 2 was all about choosing the right show. Baughman suggests choosing a show for your talent pool that would appeal to your community. We held an initial interest meeting to sort of see who was interested, and then we ended up choosing Mirror of Most Value, a Miss Marvel play, as our first production, and then doing Zombie Prom as our musical for that spring. Ever since then, we've just sort of been building our program as discussed in the book. You sort of have maybe a little seed money, and you can build that in your school program by selling tickets, doing fundraising, and building up to something bigger. So for the past couple of years, we've been building. We did, like I said, Zombie Prom, and then we were able to do the Addams Family, which was a step up from that. Last year, we did Little Shop of Horrors, which was a great experience, and I ended up saving a lot of money by building the Audreys myself. And now this year, we're doing Cinderella, which is Rodgers and Hammerstein. The rights were a little bit more expensive and all of that. So we're constantly thinking about the things that were talked about in this book, such as budgeting and things like that. But it is true that if you just kind of keep with it and sort of work all of the angles and have a really good dedicated team, you can take a program at a school and build it from the bottom up. So I look forward to further weeks in our course and getting to know everybody. I hope everybody stays warm and has a good week.